Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. And now the Friday Crime Report. Kyren Lacy was LSU's star wide receiver and on his way to the NFL. But on December 17th of last year, police in Louisiana claimed that he was involved in a car crash that left an elderly white man dead. Now, the word involved is doing a lot of heavy lifting there, because the reality is that Mr. Lacy's vehicle never hit anyone. Yet that's not how the police or the white media portrayed the events that day. According to the Louisiana State Police, Mr. Lacy was driving a green Dodge Charger south on Louisiana Highway 20. They claim Mr. Lacy passed multiple vehicles at a high rate of speed in a designated no-passing zone. A truck headed north braked and swerved out of the way of the oncoming Dodge. A 2017 Kia Cadenza was behind the truck, and the driver of that vehicle also swerved in order to miss the Dodge. As the Kia Cadenza took evasive action to avoid impact with the Dodge, it crossed the center line and collided head-on with a southbound 2017 Kia Sorento. That's how the Louisiana State Police and the white media reported this incident. That the fatal accident happened because cars were forced to swerve out of the way to avoid being hit by Mr. Lacy's vehicle. They then ginned up some trumped-up charges of negligent homicide and arrested Mr. Lacy, making sure to publicize the mugshot. This action on the part of the white authorities sent young Mr. Lacy into a downward spiral. His family retained a lawyer, but Mr. Lacy could see the police were distorting and outright fabricating what happened, and for a black man accused of killing a white one in Louisiana, where black jurors are as rare as rooster's teeth, he correctly felt he was being railroaded. A few months later, on April 12, 2025, while he was in Houston, a domestic incident was reported to police claiming Mr. Lacy had fired a gun into the ground. When the police responded, Mr. Lacy had already left. Police found him later driving down the street, and during what the police called a chase, Mr. Lacy's vehicle crashed. Kyren Lacy would be pronounced dead at the scene from what police claim was a self-inflicted gunshot wound. That was back in April, but the entire reason Mr. Lacy was dead was because the Louisiana State Police had charged him with causing the death of an elderly white man. But was that true? Being the police, the family knew that they were lying, so they had their lawyer begin his own inquiry into the police's story, and the Lafourche Parish District Attorney's Office began their own independent investigation. And the Louisiana State Police's story began to unravel immediately.
Because there's a ton of confusion. People seem to believe that somehow he hit someone in this accident, or possibly even shot through two cars and there was this explosion behind him. I've heard every version possible. But we can show you the version right now.
Okay. Sort of describe the video for our audience, what you've seen in the video.
Yeah, so what you'll see is in the top left of the screen, you're going to see multiple cars just making their way south to Thibodaux, coming from Vacherie. At some point in time, you're going to see the collision, which we're going to know is vehicle number 2 from oncoming traffic colliding with the vehicle of Mr. Hall. You will see another vehicle come to a stop, and then you'll see Kyren Lacy come to a stop.
So as we've seen the video, it looks like the impact happens and then Kyren Lacy is behind him. How far away was he from there?
Well, yeah, that's the beauty of the investigative report that I now have my hands on. We know from data that Kyren Lacy did in fact pass 4 cars. There's no disputing that. Further north, Kyren Lacy passed 4 cars. However, he was back in his lane of travel, 92.3 yards. Back in his lane, behind Mr. Hall. At the time of impact, he's 72.6 yards behind the vehicles at the time of impact. Keyword, behind the vehicles. That is not how this story was ever painted. Never. But the big narrative spun was, and this is very important, that he was actively passing at the time of this accident. That is extremely important. We know now that is 100% false. In the conclusion of the district attorney's report, they state in here that they gave the impression that Kyren Lacy was actively passing vehicles when the crash occurred, which is incorrect. He did pass 4 vehicles, but was back in the southbound lane before the crash occurred. And now we know, according to this data, that was 72.6 yards as it's stated in this report.
So even if you believe the state police's story, even they admitted that the 2017 Kia Cadenza was the vehicle that actually crossed the center line and struck and killed the elderly driver of the Kia Sorento. The Lafourche Parish DA's investigation found that the black box in the Kia Sorento that killed Herman Hall showed that the driver who hit him didn't even hit the brakes until half a second before the crash.
Actually, Vehicle 2's story got bigger and bigger and bigger until we now have their data, right? So when we get our hands on it, I'm looking at the data from that particular vehicle. That data in that vehicle shows me 5 seconds previous to this crash. 5. I'm looking at it, and you're going to show it. 5 seconds previous to this crash, she maintained a speed of 49.6 miles an hour, never activating the EBS system until 0.5 seconds before the crash. Why is that important? Because if your story, which we'll get into, keeps getting bigger and bigger, and you had all this time to see the gold truck, in her words, stomp on their brakes, slam on their brakes, come to a stop, veer off the road. I see another vehicle approaching. I see the Charger approaching. Well, my question to you now becomes, how did you see that vehicle approaching, or him stop, or him slam on his brakes, yet your data says you never touched your brake prior to 0.5 seconds before that crash? I'm looking right now, so are you, at the last 5 seconds according to her. Her car's black box, not mine, not my expert. That's her car. So if you're going to tell me a 5 to 10 second elaborate story, it needs to make sense. And when you have the data, not only doesn't it add up, it's not possible.
The driver who hit Herman Hall had been tailgating at a high rate of speed, leaving themselves no time to stop.
Vehicle 2 was tailgating, all right, according to the data, again, of the district attorney's office, not me, according to their data.
None of this was Mr. Lacy's fault. Had the driver of the Cadenza done like the truck in front of her and just stayed in their lane, they may have rear-ended the truck, but there wouldn't have been a fatality. And the most damning evidence against the police of all, the body camera footage shows the state police telling one of the key witnesses, the driver of the truck, what to say in his statement.
Alright, sir. So, look, don't worry about filling any of this top information, like your name, address. Don't worry about any of that. Just right here, if you could, I'll just have you write exactly what you saw. Just make sure to include, where you were.
I don't even know what the name of that highway.
It's Highway 20. Highway 20. That you just.
All right, maybe my wife gonna figure out right quick.
Okay, just make sure you add in there that you had to slam on your brakes, and the brakes, you had to slam on the brakes to avoid that Charger, and the brakes locked up to avoid that Charger. That's.
I ain't skid mark or nothing, but I wasn't even going for it. That lady in the back of me, she didn't saw what was happening. That's how she caused that wreck. She was running in the back of me. She pulled on the other side, and that's not in it.
So, but the Charger was coming right at you, correct? Right. And that's why you had to slam on your brake, the head on with you. So yeah, just make sure you include that, and that's very important because we're trying to locate this Charger right now. So just include that in the statement, and I'll read it over, and then I'll be out of here.
In that video, you can clearly hear the suggestive nature indicating that I need you to say that you had to slam on your brakes and you had to avoid a Charger.
Okay, just make sure you add in there that you had to slam on your brakes, and the brakes, you had to slam on the brakes to avoid that Charger, and the brakes locked up to avoid that Charger. That's correct, and that's why you had to slam on your brake.
But then you hear Gold Truck, the witness who's the Gold Truck, what he says. And he says verbatim.
I ain't skid mark or nothing, but I wasn't even going for it. That lady in the back of me, she didn't saw what was happening. That's how she caused that wreck. She was running in the back of me. She pulled on the other side, and that's not in it.
I didn't skid marked or nothing because I wasn't even going that fast. That lady in the back of me, she didn't see what's happening. That's how she caused that wreck. She was going to run into the back of me, and she pulled into the other side. But there's a bigger problem. I then obtained the actual written statement.
And this is from the Gold Truck.
This is the Gold Truck. See, the problem with that statement is It is in direct contravention to what was said minutes earlier. It's not written by him. And where it says signed, it's not signed, it's refused. But you see, when I have a witness who is the most critical, and he's telling you, I wasn't traveling fast. We know now that he wasn't. The data shows 2.99 seconds before that he was traveling 28 miles an hour. The data shows that. Now he corroborates that. And he goes on to say, I didn't even make a skid mark. That woman behind me, she caused that accident. And you give me this statement that is refused? I got a problem. But I've got an affidavit for arrest warrant right here. Nowhere in here does it say anything that you guys just saw on body cam. To the contrary, about that vehicle, it says the gold truck took evasive action by emergency braking and driving off the roadway to avoid a head-on crash. But you just heard he said, I wasn't even going fast. I didn't even skid mark. So what emergency braking are we referring to here? And what the hell was the point of this report? That is complete opposite.
You heard it. The driver of the truck said he didn't skid. He wasn't even going fast. But the cop kept insisting that he say he slammed the brakes anyway. This guy was telling this witness what to say. This wasn't taking a statement. This was dictating a statement. The driver of the truck told him that it was the car behind him who was to blame. But the cop ignored that and just kept insisting that he had to say he slammed the brakes. And when the witness refused, the cop wrote up the report himself. And when it came time for the witness to sign it, the witness refused. The witness knew that this cop was lying and was trying to get him to validate the lie, so he refused to even sign it. This was the so-called evidence that the state police were using to try to prosecute Mr. Lacy. Fraudulent statements, selectively picking and choosing what they wanted to put in their report. This wasn't an investigation, it was a framing. And it was so corrupt that even the Lafourche Parish DA's office, who never saw an act of police corruption that they couldn't excuse away, had to admit that the state police's version of the events didn't fit the facts. So, what's the facts then? The state policeman who tried to manipulate the witness into giving a false statement has been identified as Tyler Werner with the Louisiana State Police. Keep in mind, this is the same organization of scum who murdered Ronald Green. And just like every other instance where you have some cop who harms or tries to frame a black person, we're not being told anything about state policeman Tyler Werner. The white media's decided that there's going to be a blackout on all information about him. Instead, they just repeat what the police had said over and over again, which is basically lying and claiming that Mr. Lacy was hitting cars when he hadn't hit anybody. This is not white media coverage. It's a white media cover-up. And now that this scandal is blown up in their faces, the Louisiana State Police are trying to do damage control. They put out their own video that they claimed showed Mr. Lacy driving recklessly. But when you watch the video, you see that Mr. Lacy was nowhere near the accident at the time of the collision. He was in his lane with at least 2 cars in front of him. The police hadn't revealed any of this before, and even they know they're in deep because instead of just showing the video and letting the evidence speak for itself, the state police did exactly what their colleague Tyler Werner did, and they decided they were going to tell the public what to think, the same way Tyler Werner was trying to dictate to that truck driver what to say.
Since the incident occurred, the Louisiana State Police never reported that the green Charger impacted any of the involved vehicles. However, all evidence collected supports the conclusion that Lacy's reckless operation of the green Charger in oncoming traffic triggered the chain of events involving the other drivers, ultimately resulting in the fatal crash.
The state police never reported that the green Charger impacted any of the involved vehicles. No, they simply left that part out. Because by refusing to report that Mr. Lacy didn't hit anyone, they intentionally misled people to the false conclusion that he had collided with the other vehicles. When a lie gets repeated enough times, it becomes the truth. And when that lie is about a black person, they don't even care what the truth is. But now, because they're being challenged and they're having to try to explain away their original story, you see what they're actually doing now. Now they're backtracking on almost everything. You watch the video and you see that at the time of the crash, Mr. Lacy was going the same rate of speed as everybody else.
At no point in time did he have to slam his brakes. He wasn't even close to the second car. He just eased in. He eased in. He went straight from there to the facility in Trevor for his football practice. But he had no idea he caused this accident because he didn't think he caused the accident. He didn't cause the accident.
Nobody had to veer out of his way to avoid being hit because he was nowhere near them. He was over 70 yards away from the scene of the crash at the time of the impact. That's almost 3/4 the length of a football field. So this is what their defense is going to be. They're going to try to use weasel words and try to con people into thinking their lies match what actually happened. Tyler Werner should already be under arrest for falsifying a police report, which is what he did. When taking a statement, all you can do is write down what you're told. You can ask for clarification, but you cannot tell a witness what they ought to write. Telling witnesses to include such and such is bad enough, but when the witness tells you that didn't happen and you insist on it anyway, now what you're telling them is go ahead and lie. Saying to write in there that somebody hit the brakes and the brakes locked. He did that deliberately because he wanted to be able to shape the report to fit his narrative. This is some of those crooked cop tricks that they use whenever they put false cases on people. As for the person who actually killed Herman Hall, social media accounts have listed a name. I'm not repeating it here simply because it hasn't actually been confirmed. But regardless, that woman who was actually driving that Kia Cadenza, she was the one who swerved into opposing traffic and killed Herman Hall. And the driver of the pickup truck corroborated that. He said that she didn't see what was happening, and that's how she caused that wreck. Of course she didn't see what was happening because she was only half a second away from the vehicle in front of her. But that's the person who actually committed the collision, not Mr. Lacy.
Their data says she is tailgating. She is 0.5 seconds at 49.6 miles an hour, 1.5 seconds before the crash. I'm looking at the investigative report of the district attorney's office. And then here you can see this is their investigator looking at vehicle 2's statements, and now he's analyzing. He says, upon reviewing the body cam video of the trooper from the scene, the following statement was made by, we'll call her vehicle 2, right? The truck, in quotes, steps on his brakes. First, so it slows down, but then he does it again, and this time it's really hard. That's when you can see on the other side, the car is trying to get back over. But before he can get over, the truck stops in the middle, like on the brakes, hard. There's another car that runs damn near into the pole. It's either I run into him or I try to get out the way, so I'm trying to get into the dollar store parking lot. Then the other car just comes and slams into me. When vehicle 2 states the truck stops in the middle of the road like on the brakes hard, this statement indicates that the gold truck stopped in the middle of the lane and not, in quotes, swerving off to the right. This would also show that vehicle 2 would have steered to the left to avoid contact with the gold truck and not Kyren Lacy. During this interview with the trooper, vehicle 2 made several statements that do not match the submitted report or written statement. Instead of questioning vehicle 2 for more details, the trooper attempted to recap what she was saying, which seems to contradict her statements. While doing this, the trooper is the first to talk about the gold truck swerving off to the right. Then when it came to obtaining the written statement, the trooper tells vehicle 2 what to document on the statement as she is writing.
Now, the woman who drove the cadenza that actually killed Herman Hall, she gave a statement to the Louisiana State Police in which she said that the truck that was in front of her was stomping the brakes. Now, as close as she was, wouldn't she have slammed right into the back of that guy, especially the speed that she was going? But she used that phrase, stomping on the brakes, over and over again. And on top of that, she also admits that while she was driving, she was eating, which every single PSA on the radio tells you not to do. You're not supposed to be texting while driving or eating while driving. You're supposed to have both hands on the wheel. And it's interesting how in the statement that they took from her, she uses the exact same words that Werner was trying to get the truck driver to use, saying that the truck was stomping on the brakes, that the truck had stomped on the brakes. The same thing that he was telling the truck driver to say that you were stomping on the brakes. The independent investigation by the Lafourche Parish DA's office states that the driver of vehicle 2 swerved, but not to avoid Kyren Lacy. She swerved to avoid hitting the truck that was in front of her because she was tailgating, going too fast, too close to that vehicle. She had swerved into oncoming traffic in order to avoid hitting the pickup truck that she was in front of, not because she was trying to avoid Kyren Lacy hitting her. That's what the evidence and the data shows. And her own statement admits that the truck that was in front of her had come to a stop, so she either runs into that vehicle or tries to get out of the way. What is the driving background of this individual? Without this crucial information, there's no way of answering the most important question. Has this happened before? For example, I've reported in the past on drunk drivers like Gianna Brincola, who had been involved in a DUI in 2018 that killed Kenneth Love. That incident made headlines, but what no white media outlet reported on was that this wasn't the first time she had been involved in a car crash. In the same year, just 4 months earlier, she had gotten into a devastating head-on collision with another car on the exact same road. That story was buried by the white media. It's been completely scrubbed from the internet, too. It doesn't show up in practically any search engine results. You have to do some real digging to find it. And that's no coincidence. The same way that it's no coincidence that you don't see any of the white right-wingers on a crusade talking about her as proof that woke DAs are giving dangerous killers a slap on the wrist. Now, I'm not saying that the driver of the cadenza has been involved in any prior incidents. There's no information that says that this person has been. But that's my entire point. My point is we don't have any information on the person's driving background, and that's crucial to at least understand if this kind of thing has happened before. The police and the white media have gone out of their way to tell the public everything about the black man who didn't hit anyone with his car, but we have no background information on the person who did. As we saw with Daniel Penny, it's not because the white media doesn't know this information, it's because they're following a racially based policy on how they report on it. They're backing the corrupt crooks in the Louisiana State Police. That's what they're doing. The lies told by the Louisiana State Police and the white media derailed the future and eventually ended the life of an innocent black man whose only crime was that he was headed for success in the NFL. That's the only thing apparently that Kyren Lacy did wrong. He dared to be a successful black man in a place where they target black people just for existing. Louisiana police are notorious for cover-ups, from the so-called Brave Cave in Baton Rouge where they tortured black citizens to the murder of Ronald Green where they falsely claimed that he died in a car crash, when in reality it was Tyler Werner's colleagues in the Louisiana State Police who beat that man to death. A fact that didn't come to light until the body camera footage was made public. So this whole thing stinks from the very beginning. After the Lacy family's attorney came forward to challenge the police's story, we see how it changed. They suddenly are saying that no one disputes that he was behind the crash when it occurred, except that they never said where he was at any time. They told the story as if he was inches away and all the cars were swerving to avoid being hit by him when that didn't happen at all. But then again, what else do you expect in Jeff Landry's Louisiana? That racist puke boldly tells law enforcement to target black people and that the fellow white racists in the state political offices will cover for them, and this is a perfect example of that. To falsely claim that Kyren Lacy triggered the events that led to the crash, that's a masterpiece of weasel words. That phrase is so vague and so broad that it could apply to any of the drivers who were on the road at that time. Police and prosecutors do this constantly, like when they claim that an unarmed black person who was murdered by the police made a furtive gesture or an overt move. What the hell is a furtive gesture? What is an overt move? Nothing. It means whatever you think it means. That's how they get convictions, by inference, and not even clear inference, but the vaguest of inferences. They insinuate black people to death. Everyone knows about Ethan Couch, aka Affluenza Teen, the punk who came from a rich white family in Texas and killed 4 people with his pickup truck when he got drunk and went out driving and speeding. He then fled the country along with his mother, got tracked down to Mexico where he had changed his appearance, but no worries. He's white, so his racial immunity from law kept him from doing any real time in prison, despite the fact that he was a fugitive. That case was treated far less seriously than this one. Ethan Couch caused the deaths of 4 people. It was entirely his fault, no question about it. In the case of Kyren Lacy, they're talking about a crash that was not his fault, that he wasn't involved in, and claiming, well, he triggered the events that led to the crash. Kyren Lacy was a young man with a bright future ahead of him. But he died because he understood the inevitability of the racialized injustice system that he lives in. He understood that his enemies convinced the world that he did something that he didn't do. He didn't kill anyone. But the Louisiana State Police wanted everyone to think that he did because a white man had died, and they were determined to blame it on the nearest high-profile black person they could, and so they did. And the white media is doing their part to push the racial slant on the news. Virtually every single headline in the last few days has been to repeat, "Police say Lacy set off the events, etc." They didn't do that in Ethan Couch's case. They instead did a back and forth he said, she said. Whenever police are accusing a black person of something, the white media always just copies and pastes what the thugs in blue say. In any other case where a family challenges the police's account of events, that would be the headline. Family attorney of so-and-so says there's evidence that exculpates them, etc. They treat whatever that white family says as having the same weight and validity as the police. They don't just mindlessly repeat whatever the police say anyway. But Kyren Lacy wasn't white. The police are, the prosecutors are, the white media are. So of course they operate differently based entirely on the color of the people involved. Had Kyren Lacy been white, the woman in the cadenza would have been charged, and I don't think the police even would have looked at him at all. But he wasn't white, he's black, and a black college football star. Those white cops had all kinds of insecurities and inadequacies that came to the surface like a toxic brew. When white cops see black athletes, all they can think about is that black athlete's money and how many white women would kill to sleep with them. Meanwhile, the only way the racist cops can get a woman is to rape them on the side of the road, like Daniel Holtzclaw and countless other thugs with badges do. Black success eats them alive. If they could have killed Kyren themselves, they would have. Instead, they were the ones who triggered a set of events that hounded that young man into an early grave, all based on lies. And now you got the Louisiana thugs in blue who are hoping to lie their way out of this one. Recently, Louisiana's black Democratic Party members in the legislature have woken up from their coma, and some of them are proposing legislation that would try to stop police from telling these kind of lies that took the life of Kyren Lacy. That's a good move, I'm in favor of it, and it's necessary. But it's nowhere near enough. There must also be laws in place to strip qualified immunity in cases like this so that the police who lie can be pursued personally in court. Also, there must be laws to take sentencing authority away from judges when they give police these no prison time sentences. There's a lot that needs to be done to rein in these criminals. And when it comes to criminal justice, this is the conversation that must be forced on Democrats if they want our vote. Because while Kyren Lacy didn't cause anyone's death, the lies told about him by the police and the white media were the direct cause of his. And that's this week's Friday Crime Report. Keep your eyes open and stay on alert, because there's a lot worse criminals out there than the ones the white corporate media chooses to show you. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors: Charles Hairston, Brian Walton, William Outlaw, Walter Wilborn, and Gregory Franklin. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.